Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki, Shri Jagannath Subhadra Dev, Sudarshan Chakra ki. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 14, entitled The Forest of Enjoyment. This elaborate allegory of the material world. Text 36. And today we talk about money. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's a prose verse, I'll just read it. Kvachit kshina dhanaha sayasanasanaadhi upabhoga vihino yavad apratilabdha manoratho pagatadane vasita matis tatastato vamanadini janat abhilabhate. Kvachit, sometimes. Kshina dhanaha, not having sufficient money. Shaya asana adi. No, I'm only concerned if the whole temple starts moving. Accommodations for sleeping, sitting, or eating. Upabhoga, of material enjoyment. Vihina, being bereft. Yavat, as long as. apratilabdha, not achieved, manoratha, by his desire, upagata, obtained, adani, in seizing by unfair means, avasita matihi, whose mind is determined, tata, because of that, tata, from that, avamana adini, insults and punishments, janat, from the people in general, avilabhate, it gets. So here is Shukadeva Goswami speaking translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhacharya Naravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Sometimes, having no money, the conditioned soul does not get sufficient accommodations. Sometimes it doesn't even have a place to sit, nor does it have the other necessities. In other words, it falls into scarcity. And at that time, when he is unable to secure the necessities by fair means, he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. When he cannot get the things he wants, he simply receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose. Purport. It is said that necessity knows no law. When the conditioned soul needs money to acquire life's bare necessities, he adopts any means. He begs, borrows, or steals. Instead of receiving these things, he is insulted and chastised. Unless one is very well organized, one cannot accumulate riches by unfair means. Even if one acquires riches by unfair means, he cannot avoid punishment and insult from the government or the general populace. There are many instances of important peoples embezzling money, getting caught, and being put in prison. One may be able to avoid the punishment of prison, but one cannot avoid the punishment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who works through the agency of material nature. This is described in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Daivi iesha gunamai mama maya dhuratya. Nature is very cruel. She does not excuse anyone. When people do not care for nature, they commit all kinds of sinful activities, and consequently they have to suffer. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishwadaya Krishnastaya Namo Vishwadaya Krishna Pestaya Budale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shanivadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhuva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Money in all its forms is a means through which we can attain goods and services. The conditioned soul in this world of matter is in its rebellious condition. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita describes the mentality, especially the demonic mentality, as Ishvaroham, Aham Bhogi. Ishvaroham, I am the controller. Aham Bhogi, I am the enjoyer. So money is central to this project of control and enjoyment. Because money is the source of power and the source of pleasure. We can exchange money for facilities, for accommodations, and their connected services. Like, for instance, if you have a lot of money, you can travel very comfortably. You can have your own private jet with your private pilot and your private hostess. You can have your private helicopter for maybe shorter. Just like 2 days ago, my wife and I came from Köln. And of course, these trains in Europe are exceptionally comfortable, also because there's not many people. So it was comfortable, but still, from the Köln temple to here, it took 8 hours. And with heavy luggage. And we had to change in Basel. And so the whole anxiety will be the train will be on time, this and that. And so we felt privileged to use the Swiss railway, very punctual, very clean, very functional. But if we had, say, if we were multi-billionaires, we could probably travel with just our personal jet or helicopter. From Köln to Zurich will take probably half an hour by helicopter. This is just an example. Similarly, if you have a lot of money, you can stay anywhere you go. You can stay in very plush hotels, and people will serve you. They'll clean your room. They'll bring you any type of food, any type of drink, any type of other entertainments, even entertainments which I'm not want to elaborate on, because illegal in nature or extremely sinful. But you can have everything, basically. Some people like football. They buy a football team. So many. No, there are some sultans, emirs, or Russian oligarchs. They just buy a football team. A poor person has to manage just to get the money to go in the stadium and watch the football team. Sometimes it's a challenge. I don't know how much tickets cost nowadays in stadium, but sometimes it's very costly. And for a lower income person, sometimes it's a challenge just to go and see the team playing. But for some people, they like a club. They say, okay, I'll buy it. How much is it? So, but here, Sukadeva Goswami especially explained when there is poverty, when there is scarcity. The other day, Adikeshwar Prabhu was telling us about Australia, where he resides. And he was telling us how originally the main inhabitants of Australia, not the Aborigines, not the original inhabitants, but from the European side, were convicts. And he told us how most of these convicts were Irish people, were very poor. You may have heard about the potato famine in Ireland. Many people died, literally died, because that was the only food. And there was some problem with some bug or the weather, so there was no enough potato, people died. And some people start stealing, because you got to survive, right? Self-preservation, in one sense, is the first necessity. You have to live, you have to survive. So at one point, if Adikeshwar Prabhu's historical account was accurate, at one point the British jails were so full of people, And so they just shipped them to Australia, which was also a British colony. So, and of course, they were not criminals, but just the necessity. It was that Chanakya Pandit says that poverty destroys culture. Do you know the Sanskrit? See if you can find it. So poverty destroys culture, because when one is in great financial distress, all the other values become secondary, or they just become eradicated. They need to survive, first thing. So doing good to others, what to speak of giving charity, you don't have enough even for your family. Children are starving. My father once told me, was from North Italy, and he knew about a family that they were, I think he was maybe a cobbler, and they had many children, 6, 7 children, which was not rare in 100 years ago. So the father was so poor that he had made an arrangement with the children that I'll give you dinner, but if you don't take dinner, I'll give you 1 coin. I don't know what was the currency, but I'll give you 1 coin. Let's say I'll give you €1, say like that. If you don't eat, I'll give you €1. And I'll give you breakfast, but you have to pay me €1. So the children who had eaten in the dinner, they didn't have money to buy their breakfast. So they'll fast for breakfast. And those who had got the euro, €5, whatever it was, the euro for dinner, then they were very hungry, and so they had to pay for breakfast. And he was saying, my father was saying that in the town was known, and it was very sad, very sad. You couldn't even feed your children properly. So you understand that people in that condition, they are sometimes almost justified to do something illegal, because they have to survive. I found extremely interesting this sentence by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one is very well organized, one cannot accumulate riches by unfair means. So, in other words, if you are poor and miserable, you do some crime, you steal, you mug, they'll catch you. Sooner or later, they'll catch you. Especially now, there are so many CCVs. In the shops, you steal something, they'll catch you. Sooner or later, they'll catch you. So there's no. But if you are very well organized, you can accumulate a lot of riches. And this brings us to Switzerland. Because Switzerland, it's known as the vault of the world, and also as a hub for money laundering. How they did that, how they manage to attract money from all over the world. It takes a very good organization. So there is the whole history. I did some research. So Switzerland wealth grew by, first of all, cultivating banking secrecy. They built this reputation that if you keep the money with us, we will not tell anything or anything to anybody. They even have this system of just a number account. The account doesn't even have the name of the person. It's just a number. If you have that number, you can just go there. What's your account, sir? Say a long number. Okay, please, what do you want to do? I want to transfer, I want to do this, that. They don't even ask you your name sometimes. Of course, there are different contracts. See, what happened is that in the 16th century, at the time of Lord Chaitanya, already Switzerland was famous for mercenary soldiers. Because Switzerland, as a land, is quite poor. Mountains generally means poverty. It's not so good for agriculture, and many people in the mountains emigrates. So Swiss soldiers were famous in different armies. In fact, many of you know that the Vatican City, the Pope, the guard, they are Swiss guards.
My father is one.
It's one Swiss guard. Was one. Okay, see? So they have because somehow there was a particular instance in which they were already mercenaries for the Pope for hundreds of years, and then they especially one day they were very heroic. They defended the Pope. We can Google it. And so then the Pope said, "I only want Swiss guards." And so and also other armies just hired Swiss soldiers. Because on these mountains, it's hard to make money, especially 500 years ago. So they built this reputation for neutrality. They don't have, in one sense, they don't have friends and they don't have enemies. They don't join any international coalition. So that gave them a lot of stability. And it became they gained this status for safe haven. Safe haven, Haven, Haven. And so it made it very attractive for both legitimate and shady capital. People knew this place is safe. It's like a huge safe. So eventually, what happened? Geneva in the 18th and 19th centuries, Geneva and Zurich, you might have heard about this city, developed banking industry serving wealthy European aristocrats because they offer discreet, conservative service. So eventually, the Swiss banker converted all the type of sinful money from everything, from suffering, from blood, from oil, from diamonds, from prostitution, from coup d'etat in different places, into clean assets. Because they take it and they put it in and they invest it and they make money out of it. In fact, in 1934, the Federal Act on Banks and Saving Banks was passed. It made a criminal offense for bankers to reveal client information without consent. In other words, the bankers were duty-bound not to reveal what is this account, who is this money, whose money is this. So anyway, they did for two reasons. One is to protect German Jews from the Nazis, because the Nazis, when they were persecuting Jews, they were getting the assets of the Jews. That's why they persecuted them. There's the whole propaganda about race and this and that, but actually because the Jews were controlling a lot of money. So the Germans shipped the Jews to the concentration camps, and they wanted to capture the assets. And they did capture the assets, but some assets were already in Switzerland. So the Switzerland passed this law that you cannot tell whose money is this. Because if they were Jews' money, the Nazis will take it. At the same time, this institutionalized secrecy, so no transparency. It protected some people, but it also protected other people. So it became known as the World Vault. After the Second World War, Europe was in the total chaos. So Switzerland, which had not fought because it was neutral, it was untouched. Nobody bombed Switzerland and then became a safe place for wealth. So all Western people and dictators from all over the world started pouring money into Switzerland. Sometimes capitals from unstable countries, dictators of different countries, they were embezzling money in their country, they were putting it here, and tax evasion by elites in Europe and in America. So then it became, especially in the 70s, and became the money laundering hub of the world. You have dirty money, bring it to Zurich. There are 260 banks registered in Switzerland, and about a third are here in Zurich. The headquarters, not just I'm not talking about a branch, the headquarters of 80 banks are here in Zurich. So, what is dirty money is? Dictators, drug cartels, non-Colombia, they sell tons of cocaine, they kill people through that. I mean, they kill people through cocaine and they kill each other to get the cocaine, right? And then when they have a huge amount of cash, a huge amount of money, a lot of it finds its way here to Zurich. Or corrupt politicians, all the type of mafia people who kidnap and sells people, especially women into prostitution, children into both sex slavery and just slavery. They make a lot of money. It's a booming business. It's a booming business. Then all sorts, anyway, we'll give some examples. So then it was anonymous, then it was all in shell corporation, in trust. You don't really know who owns these things. They have names and strange addresses. So basically the policy of Switzerland was don't ask, don't tell. You don't ask where this money comes from. You don't ask. Because now, see, now it's a little controlled, we'll get to that. But generally, see, there is all countries of the world fight, for instance, the use of cash. In India, it's a surreal situation. You have the largest country of the world, and the biggest note, do you know what's the biggest note, the value of the biggest note in India, the largest country in the world? 5 euros, 500 rupees. That's the largest amount of money you can have in a note form, because they know that if in the note form you can stash the money away, so they want you to spend digitally, because digitally they can control your money and they can tax it. There is an ironic word in Sanskrit for taxes, kara. Kara means hand. It means also taxes. It's like the hand of the government reaching into your pocket. So those who want to evade taxation, they need some place to keep this money. Either you keep it under the mattress, which is a bit rudimentary, not so safe, or you keep it in these money laundering centers like Switzerland, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, in this area of the world, become specialized, organized. So in the 90s, there start appearing some cracks in the system. First of all, there was the Nazi gold scandal. It was revealed that Swiss banks had profited by laundering the assets that the Nazis have looted, including what they had stolen to the Jews. There was some pressure from the US because they really pressurized these banks, especially Credit Suisse and others, to reveal who are your American clients, because they were not paying millions and maybe billions of taxes. So there was pressure. Then there is something called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the European Union also started pressuring. Look, you got all this money, where this money comes from. So that affected the system, but did not dismantle the system. So I give you just some examples, and then maybe we'll take some questions or comments or some deposits. So, for instance, I don't know how many of you heard about Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos was a dictator of the Philippines, and he was for more than 20 years. So he plundered an estimate $10 billion during his dictatorship. 10 billion, half a billion, 500 million every year. That means he stole more than 1 million every day. And he put it in Switzerland, and under aliases with different names. No? And then after his fall, after he was not dictator anymore, the Philippine government chased this money for years. And eventually, somewhat, they recovered less than 700 million. It's not bad, but in 2003, the year of your initiation, you got 700 million back. But that's 7% of what he stole. Imelda Marcos. Have you heard about Imelda Marcos? She was famous because she had, can you Google that? How many pairs of shoes Imelda Marcos had? And she had only 2 feet, by the way. So
3,000 pairs of shoes.
it's like for almost 10 years, for 9 years, you change a shoe every day. It's like, what you need to do with 3,000 shoes? Those are small vignettes to show that these rich people sometimes become bizarre, no? In their habits, in their hobbies, in their collections. Shoes. And, these shoes must be very costly shoes, right? Some they may cost thousands of dollars each. Anyway, then some of you heard about Mobutu. Mobutu was the dictator of Congo, which he changed the name into Zaire. And he was in charge for more than 30 years. He stole especially money that was coming to the country in aid. People were giving help to the country, and he was stashing it in his pockets, and mining revenues. Because dictators own the country. So they have sometimes important assets like gas or coal or diamonds, and they consider it's mine. It's mine. So they will sell it, but they will take huge bribes. So after his death, the family fought to access the hidden funds, and it took years of litigation, but they only got a fraction. And this is another aspect. Krishna speaks about greed. Greed as one of the doors of the gates of hell. Sometimes these people have so much money, they don't know what to do. They just put it in banks, they buy stashes of gold. They don't know, because you can't even use this much money. Also because, and they could do so much good for the country, or for, I don't know, if they were religious, they could do so many things. Srila Prabhupada gives an example. He was in Allahabad, and he was in the pharmaceutical business, so he would buy a lot of bottles to put the medicines. So there was a Muslim supplier, and Srila Prabhupada once was talking with him and said, you must have made a lot of money supplying bottles for so many decades. So what were you going to do with this money? And this person said, sir, I'm planning to build a mosque. And Srila Prabhupada gave that as an example of a pious person. He made money, considerable money, and now he wants to build a mosque for the glory of God, for people to gather and pray to God. That was very nice. You want to know? This is even more bizarre. How many of you heard about Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier? Have you heard that? No. Some of you are very young, so some of these people died before you were born. So he was the dictator of Haiti, and his family looted hundreds of millions from one of the poorest nations on earth. I mean, if you even sporadically check the news, Haiti is a total mess. It's the whole city is in the hands of gangs. It's like a total anarchy. Anyway, but they managed to steal hundreds of millions, and the Swiss banks kept this money despite everybody knew it was a result of corruption and repression. These people were very, very violent. So then he fled away in '86, and Haiti fought for decades to get this money back. And you know one very particular way in which he was making money? He was extracting blood from his citizens and selling the blood, selling the plasma. Huge business. What happened, there was a company called Hemocarib. Hemo means blood, no? And Carib means Caribbean. So blood from the Caribbean. It was linked to Duvalier. And poor Haitians were paid a few cents to sell their blood plasma. They were poor. Like when somebody is poor, he has to live somehow. And sometimes they would get these transfusions multiple times a month. So they became very weak and sick. Plus, they were reusing the same needles, so people will get hepatitis, all sorts of diseases. Plus, they were not checking the quality of the blood, so they were selling infected blood. So this plasma was exported to the US and Europe. See, Adikesha is disgusted. He leaves the place. So, and it was sold for huge profits because people need blood all the time, right? So, so this industry was called the vampire business because they were sucking blood, literally. Anyway, I mean, I could go on and on. You heard about Pinochet? You heard about Pinochet, huh? The dictator of Chile. He was like a military dictator, General Pinochet. So he said that he was ruling with an iron fist and with sticky fingers because he was still a lot of money. Now that the deities are open, I think I should stop talking about these things. Anyway, so here we are in one of the filthiest places in the world, morally, that gained from all the pain and suffering and illegality from all over the world, Asia, South America, the Nazis, everywhere, the Africans, everywhere. And here we are. That's how Switzerland became so rich. It was not just the chocolate and the watches. Okay, any questions, comments, reflections? Because we could talk so much more about money, but these are some ideas. Any questions? Yes. Do you want to open an account?
No, I was just wondering, like, how can this be like if you're planned, you can keep the money, the dirty money?
Ah.
How is it, how does the nature, the laws of the nature allow this, that people that get rich unfairly, how does the money still keep coming to them? Because I was thinking that,
Oh, you mean if somebody has a bad karma should become poor?
yeah,
Yeah, you see, karma is not immediate. And that's important because the important psychologically, because if karma was immediate, nobody practically could even do sinful activities. Like, for instance, if I get a lung cancer after one cigarette, nobody will smoke. Or if I get cirrhosis after one drink, then nobody could drink. And so you see, all the sinful activities are designed in a way that there is a gap. Of course, the lowest of the lowest, sometimes they are so low that they are immediate. For instance, you heard about the drug called crocodile. It's very popular in Russia. It's called crocodile. You heard? See. It's called crocodile because when you inject this drug, which is, by the way, is very cheap, you can find it, you can find the ingredients, you can do it at home. It makes your skin like the scale of a crocodile. And it's kind of immediate. People die in like 1 year, 2 years. Or in South America, sometimes the kids, very poor kid, what they do, they sniff glue. You heard about that? You're from a very pious background, obviously. So, they just take because they suffer so much, they had to somehow obfuscate, cover their consciousness. You heard about sniffing glue. Yeah. I'm not saying it's from a less virtuous background. It's just, I'm not saying that. So sometimes when they're so intense, so crazy, really crazy, then there's more, the gap is less. But sometimes people have a good karma, they have a good brain, organizational capacity. They are even very, very well educated. It's called white-collar criminals. No? They don't do anything themselves, but they profit from people who do crimes. And so there is a gap. And so sometimes it takes one lifetime. Just like Hiranyakashipu, for some time he was the king of the universe. It is said that Devatas would just serve him, not fan him. So similarly, any jiva who accumulate either through austerity or through pious activities, they acquire power. Money, basically, money, because through money you can buy armies, you can do anything. Then, for some time, they can dominate and they can enjoy. Of course, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, they're always full of anxiety. Imagine these people who have money in Switzerland, they're not even using it then, no? And they always know that somebody may get to know, somebody will make a court case against me, and so many things. But the principle I want to stress is that there is a gap between the sinful activities and its reaction. And this is essential so that the conditioned soul can live quite freely. So the scriptures, any scripture in the world, the Quran, the Bible, the Gita, tells them what to do and what not to do, but people are free not to follow those scriptures. And then, like Srila Prabhupada says here, one may escape the government punishment But one cannot avoid the punishment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who works through the agency of material nature. So these people, I mean, this Imelda Marcos, he had 3,000 shoes. Maybe next life he doesn't even have legs. And we don't know. We don't know. So, or maybe she has no shoes at all next life. Or she's a shoemaker somewhere in a factory. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, the range of possibilities are huge. We cannot just know. And somebody may have one lifetime of, you could say, lifetime of enjoyment, power. But you see, they all, 20, 30 years, they die, they escape. You heard about Assad in Syria. You heard about Assad in Syria? You heard about Syria? You heard about Syria. So there was a dictator, his name was Assad. He was the son of the previous dictator. And he ruled the country in an atrocious way. He killed all his enemies. He kept thousands of people in jail. And just recently, last year, there was an army that basically overthrew him. And he ran away. Now he's in Russia. You don't read newspapers, which is good. Well, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying you should read newspaper. But even if occasionally, I'm not suggesting you should start reading newspaper. But sometimes newspapers give a sense of how these things happen. So this Assad was the owner of the country, and then he lost everything. I mean, he lost everything. He must have stashed away so many millions of dollars in gold, but they lost their whole power. They had to run away, literally. Basically, it was one of the last flights from Syria to Moscow. And sometimes they even get killed. You heard about Gaddafi? Yes? Gaddafi, Libya. You read too many newspapers. Oh, Maduro, yeah. So Gaddafi was the leader of Libya. You know Libya, no, North Africa. It's a very rich country because it's got a lot of petrol. So he obviously was, he and his family was very, very, very rich. At the end, they made a revolution and they just killed him in the street. You heard about Saddam Hussein? No, if you didn't hear about Saddam Hussein, it's fine. He was the dictator of Iraq. And he did some atrocious thing. He gassed people of his own country with what do you call bacteriological warfare on his own people. And then practically he fell. You heard about the war of Iraq war? You heard? You heard about that? The U.S. came in. No? So he basically escaped, and he was found literally in a hole in the ground. There are videos of him coming out with a big beard, and the American soldier checking his teeth, shaving him up. Then he was given to the justice, local justice, and in a few days he was hanged, was killed. So sometimes you see the karma, 10, 20 years, they are on top of the world, literally. They enjoy everything. He was famous because in his palace he had imported a lot of Thai prostitutes. Because they can do anything. You see, when you have so much money, so much power, you can do anything. You can buy people. But then, either in this life or in the next, they either they have a very terrible death and fall downs in this life, or next life, who knows what hell will they visit. Does it give you an answer? Anything else? Yes.
From all
Are you Swiss?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, there are many elements. There are some people who are directly, I mean, are you a banker or from a family of bankers? No. So there are obviously different degrees of responsibilities. It's like a banker who knows where the money comes from, or he doesn't want to know, but he knows that there is something fishy, something very black, a lot of pain behind that money. Obviously, they will have a higher degree of karma. Now, how much every single citizen, like honest citizens, they work, they get their salary. Yes, they get the benefit because some of this money filters down in the system, in the education, in you run the country, the army, the transport network, and so on. At the same time, if you chant Hare Krishna, that karma will be liquefied or evaporated. Now, how much the country will suffer, I don't know. I don't know. It's karma is also individual, to a large extent, is individual. So, it's a legitimate question, but I'm sure you don't expect from me a specific answer, right? Because I don't know. It's not in another country. They for instance, some country like India. India is the second largest exporter of beef. You may think of India as a very mystical place, but it's the second largest. First is Brazil, the second largest exporter of bovine meat. And of course, those who eat meat. That's the mind of God, the mind of Paramatma. How much he thinks these things are sinful, how much they think these things are cultural habits. So it doesn't take it so seriously. It's really to understand the mind of God. But certainly, when you enjoy tainted money, there is a reaction, obviously, because it comes from a lot of pain, a lot of murderous activities, like cocaine money. This cocaine money, they kill people, or heroin or crack, and then you enjoy the money, you get the karma. To what extent? What will happen to Switzerland as a country? I don't know. As a joke, this is a joke. I don't know if you read, just a few days ago, there was this scandal with the Swatch, the Swiss maker of watches in China, because somehow they made an ad, somebody with a Swatch, a Chinese person with a Swatch, somehow the photo, it goes like this, with the Swatch. And China became furious. The whole China became furious. They say, oh, this is racial profiling because we have the eyes like this, so you're making the publicity that the person holds. You can Google it. Swatch scandal. Shirade, Swatch, China. And it's a small thing in one sense, It's a photo of one boy who holds it like this with the Swatch. And they became furious, the whole country, so they lost a lot of money. I'm not saying that this is the beginning of the karma. I'm just saying that sometimes things happen in a haphazard way. 8:30, should we stop here? Sir, do you speak Tamil? No, he's praying, so. Hare Krishna, do you speak Tamil? I want to share a Tamil saying, because today we spoke about money philosophically. I'm sure you're familiar with the Tamil saying that says, Panamendral, pinamum vaitorakum. Right? So, okay, this is a proverb in Tamil. It means when you speak about money, even a corpse open its mouth. There's also the saying, money is honey. So money is so important. Of course, we need some money to do anything, to eat, to have anything, to have lights on. But sometimes even when people have money, they just can't stop making more and more and more money. Just greed, one of the gates of hell. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, legal money ki jai. Lakshmi Devi ki jai, right. That's the point, that the money, it's an expression of Lakshmi, opulence, and that has to be used in the service of Narayana.
Prosperity is Lakshmi, wealth is Kubera.
So if one uses Lakshmi in the service of Narayana, then Lakshmi is very happy. But if one tries to steal Lakshmi from Narayana, like Ravana stole Sita from Rama, then it's the destruction awaiting this person. Okay, thank you. Entendió todo.